welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we are watching DontSinkV or DontSinkV, I'm not sure, we're just going to call him DontSink, play the Cleveland. And as far as I know, DontSink has just unlocked the Cleveland at this point, and this was one of his earlier games, or her, and they sent it in to me asking, hey, could you take a look and tell me how to play, how to do things differently. How could you be successful in the Cleveland? This happens occasionally, that people start the Cleveland and don't really quite know what to do with her just yet, because she is very powerful. But you do need to play her to her strength. What is the Cleveland? What's special about the Cleveland? Well, the Cleveland is the first ship in the American light cruiser line where you get radar and a sonar, which means that destroyers really have a hard time actually getting away from her. The guns are good. The high explosive doesn't have a high fire chance, but you do have a very good rate of fire. You've got a good set of secondaries. And for a light cruiser, she is surprisingly sturdy. Still doesn't mean you can give broadsides to battleships, but she can take a bit of punishment. So DontSink here is in a top tier game up against Double Bismarck, Amagi, North Carolina, so 4 battleships on the enemy team, Mogami, Zara, and 1 Akka. So that 1 Akka is going to be either his problem or her problem, or the Mikhail Kutuzov's problem. So we'll find out where they're going to end up. They are playing on the Halloween map. I forgot what it's called, but so they're heading out, and they're heading towards C. Now, I don't know if that gunshot was an accident or if that was meant to bloom the detection radius to see if there's an early detection. Either way around, this is not really something you either want to or need to do in the Cleveland, because the radar on the Cleveland has roughly about the same range as the non-gunfire detection radius. So the big question comes: where's that Japanese destroyer? They're either at A or at C. If they're at A, they're the Kutuzov's problem. If they're at C, they're your problem, because destroyer priority. Everything else is for the opening stage secondary. So given that this is a cross spawn, between these 2 islands there is where you're going to see the first enemy team passing by, because they're coming from the exact same direction as you do, just from the other side. So you kind of have to make a plan at this point. What do you do? Where do you want to position? Given that there are 4 battleships in the enemy team, there's at least 1 battleship over there at the other side, or 2 maybe, and probably 1 of the cruisers. So you want to kind of go for a defensive positioning. You've got a Kagero with you and a battleship to back up, so that's not a bad combination. But either way, so given that the radar has almost the same range as your detection, if you know that there's a destroyer, and let's say they start capping, and you get detected, you know that the destroyer has just entered your detection radius. You wait a second or 2, and then you can pop the radar if you want to get shots off early. So the big question becomes, where's the destroyer? Because the destroyer is going to be the first one to cap. He's either in A or in C. So if we start seeing A flipping first, that's where the destroyer is. Capture or C flipping B first. Yeah, that's exactly where you're going to get ships. We've seen A and C flipping at the same time, but we've got a Kagero with us, and the Kagero is a little bit slower, so he's not quite in the cap circle yet. We can be relatively certain that the destroyer is in C. How do I know that? That's because DontSink is spotted and can't see what's spotting him, which means it has to be the destroyer. So the destroyer is between these 2 islands. You want to load the armor piercing against destroyers, and it's a fair bet to make, because you didn't know where the destroyer was going to show up. But we're going to have to switch ammos. So where do you position yourself now? The destroyer is not going to be alone. Look at the battleship right behind you. If you look at the opposite side of the map, you can pretty much estimate where the enemy battleship is going to be. At least 1, maybe 2 of them, heading this way. So if you get in the cap circle, do you want to get into the cap circle with the cargo? You can do that. You can use the center island to shield yourself from battleship shells. You shouldn't really be afraid of the destroyer, because the destroyer is most likely going to run away from you, and you've got all the tools in the toolbox to deal with that thing. So we're captured. We're captured. We're detected. No longer detected. So the destroyer is behind the island at this point. Yeah, there he is. Okay. So Aka is behind the island. So we've missed the first possible salvo against the Aka. Now at this point, and this becomes very much the crucial moment, one of the crucial moments for this game. We know that the Aka is coming around that island. He's either going to ambush, or he's going to come out in front of a Cleveland. Now the Cleveland can obviously one-shot the destroyer, and he's on full health. So he can, or he may or may not be coming out the island. There's an easy way to find that out. You have a radar. This is the time where you want to slow down in case the Aka comes around the island, and maybe use your first radar consumable and see if he's either just dropping torps in your way and hiding behind the island, which is what most players would do, or is he going to come around the island. Either way, there's the first battleship coming, pretty much exactly mirrored to the battleship behind you. You do not want to be shot at by that battleship. Battleships will target cruisers first. So do you need to be in the cap circle? Yes, you can be in the cap circle, but you do need to get that island between yourself and the battleships. Alternatively, you can go around the outer islands and start flanking and hunting things. So let's see what actually happens. So we don't know if the destroyer is coming around. There he is. Okay, so this is the point. This right here is the point where I would have put the ship in reverse, because the destroyer hasn't torpedoed before passing by the island. The destroyer is broadsiding a Cleveland at 4.6 kilometers and is not firing his guns. He's torpedoing you. Have the hydro up. At this point, you see the destroyer, but use the hydro right now. Like the second you can see him, use the hydro, because that gives you a much advanced warning time of where the torpedoes are coming. But even without the hydro, your torpedo sense should be telling you right now that this destroyer has just sent a bunch of torpedoes in your direction. So since you're broadsiding onto the destroyer, you want to put the ship in reverse and turn in towards the torpedoes. Alternatively, you could have kind of turned around and already got into a kite away position, but you're in an aggressive position now, and that's okay. Good use of secondaries and a little bit more lead on the main guns. That's one of the things with the... you should have gotten that in the Brooklyn already. That's one of the things with the American light cruisers. The shell arcs, at least starting at tier 6 with the Dallas, the shell arcs are extreme and the shells are relatively slow. So you do get... if you think you're taking enough lead, take half more lead than what you think you should be taking. That's my rule of thumb, because your aim gets thrown off. You play another ship and you aim normally, and then you get back to these things, and your normal aim is always too short. So at this point, yes, good use of secondaries. A lot of people forget that, but you are having most definitely torpedoes coming your way. And again, you see the shells are falling short. Now there comes the torpedoes, and yeah, this is gonna hurt. So this was unfortunate, and again too short, the shots on the Aka. But we've pushed the Aka away. You're down to about half health, and now you've still got shots out on the Aka. I would have kept firing on the destroyer, because the ESA on your team is actually spotting him with his dive bombers, even if he's not actually being able to hit him. Now from here on, where do you go? Now there's a Zara coming around, and the Aka is buggering off. So this Aka should have been a dead Aka, very much so. But you lost too much health that you don't necessarily want to go want to push around. Plus the battleships, there are 2 battleships now coming, and we see that. So you're holding the cap. There's no reason for you to be in the cap circle. You can rush that Zara, and the Zara knows that. So he's running. Look at him. He's already running, and it's like, okay, nope. There might be torpedoes in the way. So if you hadn't used the hydro before, that now would be a good time. And now you're starting to come under shots from the battleships. Now, why is that? Well, because whatever battleship that is behind, that's to your left here, is actually covered by the island. And so is the Kagero, obviously. Now, the Kagero is right where he should be, because you've pushed both the Akka, which could have spotted him, and the Zara, which would have been an extremely dangerous opponent, out of the Cup Circle, which is great. Now you just need to not be the only thing that the battleships have to shoot at. So you could have gone to the island ahead of you, but it would have been dangerous at this point because the battleships are probably somewhat in range, but they've just fired. So you might have enough. You probably would have enough time, but it's also a valid reaction to go back. Now the problem is obviously if you're going back into the Cup Circle, you're starting to come into a crossfire because there's another battleship coming over from A Cup. So it's going to get hot in here, and you do not wish to be in a close range. Now the Zara obviously running away and trying to shoot at you from long range. And you've got a North Carolina. So back to the high explosive, right choice, and actually good aim at this point. You can be behind islands quite a bit with the Cleveland that shield you from shots, but that North Carolina is pushing hard. So yeah, you definitely want to be. This is a good range. I don't think that Amagi is going to live long because there are 3 battleships now, and he's going to get crossfire from all directions. So that Amagi is dead. And once that Amagi is dead, you have to assume, again, the shots are falling short here, you have to assume that Kagero isn't spotted. Which means you're the next one. And now you've got a North Carolina on your right side, which you're more or less giving broadside, but you can't turn because there's a Bismarck on the other side. And yet another battleship behind him. And all these people are going to shoot at you. Why? Well, first of all, because you're a cruiser, and second of all, because they don't have anything else to shoot at, because the Kagero isn't spotted. So you're taking an unpleasant broadside there from the NC. Now, we've seen him flickering up there on the map just short. The Zara is still there because obviously he stopped running away, and he's now camping that island there, which means you're once again outflanked. You've got a Bismarck and another battleship in front of you, and you've got a Zara to the right. So wherever you're going to turn, you're going to give somebody broadside. You do need to use islands to cover at least to cover the side that you're not actively positioning defensive against. So if you were on the other side of the island, basically where the Ise is right behind you there, the Zara couldn't shoot at you. Or if you were just on the outside of the islands, because you don't really need to be in the Cup Circle at this point. The Kagero's got this, and there's only one battleship in there. So there's no real reason for you to be inside the Cup Circle. You are on relatively low health, plus you're getting, there come Bismarck shots, and you're getting some flanking shots. That was a good dodge on the Bismarck, but you are giving broadside to the Zara. Now, the Zara is an Italian cruiser, but still, that semi-armor piercing is going to hurt at some point. I don't think he's going to citadel you from that range, but he's outranging you. And now you're positioned against the Bismarck, but you're still giving broadside to the Zara. Now you're gone undetected. That's because the Zara has popped his smoke, because he's being dropped by dive bombers, which isn't going to help him because the dive bombers are on auto-targeting. And you're reversing at this point around the island. Now, this is a much, much better position because the island is somewhat shielding you. First of all, you see how you're not spotted because the island is covering your ship. You're a little bit too close to it. I'm not sure if you can actually lob, but again, too short. You need to aim further ahead. You can't lob it from this close. You do need to be a little bit further behind. So they're now capping, and it looks like we're losing B as well. You're one ship down. Your team's one ship down. You're still ahead on points, but you're losing all 3 caps at this point. The Bismarck's going to be dead soon. The Bismarck's not your problem though. The Zara is. So you don't need to shoot at the Bismarck right now. The Bismarck's burning, and wait for him to come around the corner. In the but once he does, he's on relatively low health. There you go. That's a nice shot. But in the meantime, you're still giving broadside to a Zara. Okay, there's the Bismarck down. You don't need to grab the cup. But again, Zara has torpedoes, so this would have been a really good time for a hydro. And you want to go back to the armor piercing against the Zara, most likely. Although I haven't played Zara, so I don't know how well this armor works. But at this distance, you probably want to be guns blazing. Now, you're trying to get away from the Zara. The problem is you're heading straight into a battleship. Because, once again, you've got enemies on 3 sides. There's the Bismarck. There's the destroyer that escaped earlier is to your left, and the Zara is right behind you. So and there's a Mogami as well. So whichever way around you're taking this, you're screwed, because they're all going to shoot at you because they have nothing else to shoot at. Because again, the Kagero is most likely not spotted because he's in cover, and you actually, the irony of it, get taken out by the Akka. So this has been a tough spot and a tough game. I mean, they're kind of two obvious things. The first one obviously being you haven't used any of your consumables. And I know this is something to get used to, but this is something to practice. When do you use the radar and the hydro? The first radar you could have used like 2 seconds after you were spotted the Akka while he was going behind the island and taken half his health off. That would have discouraged him from actually coming around the island in the first place on the other side, because you would have killed him. You could have used the hydro once the Akka came around, and the radar again while the Akka was behind the island. The other thing is angles. So the Cleveland is a light cruiser. You do need to make sure that you don't have more than one person shooting at you at the same time, such that you can actually actively dodge. Having a Zara on the broadside, even if it's just a cruiser, they will wear you down. Having a broadside to the battleship like the NC, I know you didn't have a choice because it was either that or the Bismarck, but you kind of need to make islands more your friends. So try to use islands in a way that you're either behind them and shooting over them, because that's something the Cleveland's really good at, or that you're bow tanking towards, let's say, incoming battleship fire, like that dodge against the Bismarck shells was excellent. The problem was you were giving broadside to the North Carolina at the same time. So try to use the islands. You don't need to be inside the cap circle most of the time in a Cleveland. Cleveland is not a cap rusher. It's not a tanking ship. She's not a ship to control something like a cap circle. You want to be... Your primary targets are destroyers and obviously air support, which you didn't have to do in this game because no carriers. And if you're dealing with battleships, island cover is your friend. So because you will need to burn them down, and it does take a little bit of time. So making sure you're behind islands and using the islands to avoid being shot in the sides is extremely essential. Other than that, yeah, I think you've got the things down with the ammo choice. And the lead, just remember, if you think you're leading enough, lead about half that more on the Cleveland, because you're never leading enough unless you've played it for a long time and you're really, really used to it. All right then, thanks for sending that one in, and thanks for having the courage actually of showing a game that didn't go well and asking, say, hey, what could I do better? Sorry that it took so long. I've just got too many things going on, but we got to it eventually. So maybe by now you're already laughing about this. But anyway, I hope this was somewhat helpful, and maybe help someone out there who's also starting with the Cleveland and is struggling as well. So thanks everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.